Hello everyone, welcome to And the Best Inspires channel. I quickly want to discuss law 10 of the 48 laws of power in this video. So the law 10 says, infectious, avoid the unlucky and the unhappy. Avoid the unhappy and the unlucky. In life, many compassionate, good-hearted people with good intention as a result of trying to be compassionate and to be good to people in life they have end up draw misfortune on themselves. They have end up living in a miserable lifestyle as a result of trying to be nice. So this law is going to open our eyes to understand what this is all about. So the law said, infections, avoid the unmiserable and avoid the unlucky and the unhappy. And the Lord said, you can die from someone else's misery. You can die from someone else's misery. It says, emotional states are as infectious as diseases. You may think you are helping the drowning man, but you are only precipitating your own disaster. The Lord said, the unfortunate sometimes draw misfortune on themselves. They will also draw it on you. Associate with the lucky and the fortunate instead. Associate with the happy and the fortunate, the Lord said. Now I am going to state it again and explain for more clarity and understanding. The Lord said, infections, avoid the unhappy and the unlucky. Avoid the unhappy and the unlucky. Instead, you can die from someone else's misery. For a clear understanding, what is the concept misery? What is it all about? Misery can be seen or defined as a persistent state of negativity. It is a pattern of unhappiness, bitterness, self-pity, and self-destructive patterns or behaviors that draws others emotionally, spiritually, physically, mentally, psychologically, and even materially. It is not just a self-burden, but it is something that can be spread and transferred from one person to another. For example, when someone is living a miserable lifestyle or when someone is miserable, by being connected to such person because of the miserable lifestyle they engage in or they are involved in, they will begin to transfer that miserable lifestyle to you, just like disease spray. In the same way, their negativity, their bad influence, their bad character will begin to spray to you, just like disease spray from one person to another. And the Lord said, you may think you are helping the drowning man, but you are only precipitating your own disaster. You are only precipitating your own disaster. Yes, at first glance, it seems good and compassionate to dive into people's problem with the intention of helping them. But the warning here is that when you try to rescue someone who is drowning or who is sinking under the weight of problems, sometimes you end up being drawn into the same condition yourself. So what this law is actually trying to say, diplomatically, is not trying to discourage us from rendering help to people, from being compassionate or being kind or abandoning people in pains. It is good to show support to people. It is good to be kind. Supporting others is part of human responsibilities. Showing compassion is human and is necessary. But however, wisdom requires us to recognize when our help is constructive and when it is destructive. Genuine kindness should be paired with wisdom. Otherwise, what seems to be help can only accelerate disaster. You must also be wise to note that the wisest form of help is the one that uplifts you without draining you emotionally, physically, spiritually, and otherwise. So you must help with boundary. So this is what this part is actually all about. And it further said, the unfortunate sometimes draw misfortune on themselves. They will also draw it on you. The unfortunate, these are people that create a condition, a situation, and an environment that cause more misfortunes on themselves. So when you are connected to them, they will also draw the same misfortune on you. So the Lord said, associate with the lucky, with the happy, and the lucky instead. Associate with those that are of good influence, those that will uplift you emotionally, that will uplift you positively, that will influence your life to fulfill your destiny. These are the kind of people. That is why you must choose your associates carefully, because when you try to associate with such kind of people with bad character, with bad influence, you will drawn into the same condition, and sometimes you can end up losing your life. So this is what the law is just all about. Now, for clarity and more understanding, we are going to be looking at a very powerful example using the case study of the Titanic that sank into the North Atlantic Ocean in April 15, 1912. It all began when the ship left Southampton, England, and was heading to New York. That was around 10th of April 1912, with the intention of arriving on the 17th of April 1912. So while the ship was moving across the North Atlantic Ocean, it was a moonless night. So the ship received several warnings of an iceberg ahead, considering the damage an iceberg can cause to ship. And what is an iceberg? It is a giant block of ice that floats on the surface of ocean. So, and normally one of the most dangerous aspects of this iceberg is that the most dangerous part of it, which is about 90%, is usually beneath the water, while only the tip, the small part of it, is always at the surface of the ocean. But the dangerous part of it can cause destruction. So while this ship was moving across the Atlantic Ocean, it received several warnings of the iceberg ahead. But at this time, there was no technology like the radar that could detect an iceberg, or satellite, or GPS. So the mode of detecting, or the means of detecting danger then, was through human observation, which is lookout, and then radio, warning from radio. So at this point, while the ship was moving, it received several warnings, but they were so overconfident because they believed that the ship was so strong that nothing can sink it. So while moving across the ocean at about 500 meters, suddenly the lookout spotted an iceberg very close. So at this point, the ship was moving with serious speed, and then considering the size of the ship, it was impossible for the ship to make a U-turn. So that was how the ship scrapped into the iceberg, ran into the iceberg, and the iceberg cracked the ship, ripped many hoses, and suddenly water began to enter into the ship. At first, many passengers that were in the boat, they were so overconfident and they felt safe because of the way the ship was. Suddenly, as the water began to enter into the ship, they realized that something was happening, and everybody they began to get people were panicked, and before we know, the crew began to release lifeboats for people to be survived. But unfortunately, the numbers of the lifeboats were just too few to be enough for the numbers of the passengers. So suddenly, the ship began to sink into the water, and at that process, so many people were so panicked, and then others who tried to help those that were drowning get drowned in the ocean. And at about 2:20 a.m. on the 15th of April 1912, the ship finally broke into parts and sank, completely disappeared into the ocean, and 1,500 passengers lost their lives. So, in this law, with regards to this law, the miserable, the misfortune, and the unfortunate people that draw their miserable lifestyle, that draw misfortune on the innocent soul, were the captain and the crew members that ignored the signs and the warning that was given to them by other ship captain, because they were so overconfident that they felt that the ship was so strong. So at the end of it, they end up drawing this misfortune on themselves, and then they were able to draw it on the innocent passengers that end up losing their life. So in life, there are people that are so miserable that they carry this miserable lifestyle, and once you are connected to them innocently, you can lose your life, just like the innocent passenger, 1,500 persons that lost their lives. So we should avoid such people. What this was trying to say, avoid such kind of people, because when they draw their miserable lifestyle, when they draw misfortune on themselves, they will draw it on you. You will be affected by their misfortune. If they have bad influence, if they have negativity, if they carry negative lifestyle, they will definitely draw it on you. So the Lord says we should avoid such people. He said the unfortunate sometimes draw misfortune on themselves, they will also draw it on you. Now let us look at the other part of it. It says, you may think you are helping the drowning man, but you are only precipitating your own disaster. Those that try to help those that were trying to be drawn into the water actually show kindness. It was good, but it was done without wisdom, without boundaries, and without strategy. It is good in life to help people when they are in problem, but it must be done with wisdom, with strategies, with principle, with boundaries, because any help that requires your energy being drained, it is no longer help, it is endangerment. So you must be careful. Just like I said, genuine kindness should be shown with wisdom, because otherwise, what seems to be help can only accelerate disaster, and sometimes you can comprehensively lost your life. So you need to understand this. No wonder the Bible says, it said, be not be deceived. Evil communication corrupt good manners. When you are drawn to such miserable people, when you are drawn to such unfortunate people, their bad mood, their negativity, their bad intention, their influence will begin to drawn to you, and before you know, you will find yourself in the same condition and you will be drowned. So you must be wise while rendering help to people. It is good, but it should be done with wisdom, and this is what the law is just explicitly all about. I believe so much you must have learned so many things from this law 10, and I urge every one of us to stay tuned, hit the subscribe button, that whenever I release any important video, you will be notified. So thank you so much for giving your time to watch this video. Do have a wonderful time, and God bless you. My name remains Engineer Andrew Owecho. God bless you so much, and do have a wonderful time.